All right, today we're tackling a big one. We're going to break down the investment case for what some are calling a potential $1 trillion opportunity, one that might be hiding in plain sight in the AI space. We're diving deep into the argument for BitTensor and its token, Tau, and exploring why it might just be a massively undervalued bet on the future of AI.
Okay, so let's get right into it. To really wrap our heads around this argument, you have to start with the backdrop, right? And that's the almost insane valuations we're seeing in the world of centralized AI. It's kind of the Wild West out there.
Just look at this number, $850 billion. That's the valuation OpenAI reportedly hit in a recent funding round. I mean, think about that for a second. That's an absolutely staggering figure. And it really just screams how much hype and capital is flooding into the AI scene right now. And this is where it gets really interesting. This chart just lays it all out, right? On one side, you've got these behemoths, OpenAI, Anthropic, with valuations in the hundreds of billions. And then way over on the other side, you've got BitTensor, this decentralized alternative, sitting at just around 2.7 billion. So the whole argument we're digging into today is built on this huge gap. Is this a sign that BitTensor is wildly undervalued?
So that's the big question, isn't it? If BitTensor is supposed to be the answer, what exactly is it? And maybe, more importantly, how on earth can it even hope to compete with these absolute giants?
Well, at its core, BitTensor is basically an open marketplace for AI. But instead of thinking of it as one single company, it's way more like, I don't know, like a venture capital fund that gives you exposure to 128 different mini AI startups. They're all competing, they're all innovating, but they're doing it on this one big decentralized network. It's a completely different way of looking at how you build and scale AI.
And this decentralized setup, it's not just for show. It's designed to have some major advantages. The idea is to push costs way down, be way more efficient as it grows, and this is a big one, it's censorship resistant because it sources compute power from all over the globe. So what does that really mean? It means it can tap into computers from literally anywhere, which makes it super resilient. No single government or country can just pull the plug.
Okay, but why is all that decentralized stuff so important? Well, it's because the whole argument hinges on the idea that the traditional centralized AI model, for all its power, has a huge fundamental bottleneck, a kind of Achilles heel, if you will. So what is it? What's the biggest weakness for these centralized AI giants? Because as they get more and more powerful, they're starting to bump up against a massive wall, a constraint that could seriously cap their growth. It all boils down to one thing: energy. Plain and simple. The gigantic data centers you need to train and run these things, they are unbelievably power hungry. We're talking about an insane amount of electricity. And the cost of that power, and even just getting access to it, is becoming a massive problem. And here's where things get really geopolitical. This chart shows a pretty stark reality. China is pulling way ahead in the global power generation race. And why does that matter for AI? Well, if your AI model depends on a massive physical data center, then you're also completely dependent on the power grid of whatever country that data center is in. It's a huge strategic vulnerability. And this is exactly where the BitTensor model flips the script. Because it's decentralized, it can source compute power from literally anywhere. It's not locked into one country's power grid. It can tap into energy from millions of different sources all over the world, and the system is designed to automatically reward the most efficient ones, no matter where they are. It's jurisdiction agnostic. Okay, I get it. This idea of 128 competing AI startups can sound pretty abstract, right? So let's bring it back down to earth. Let's look at a real-world example of just one of these subnets in action. We're talking about subnet 93, which goes by the name Bitcast. So what does Bitcast do? Well, it's targeting the creator economy. And that market is, well, it's absolutely huge. We're talking about a projected size of over $500 billion by 2030. Bitcast's whole goal is to be the bridge that connects brands with creators inside this massive, growing ecosystem. And their business model is pretty clever. It's designed to be this self-reinforcing loop, or a flywheel. Here's how it works. Brands pay Bitcast to get access to all its creators. Then, Bitcast takes that money and uses it to buy back and burn its own token. That reduces the supply, which is designed to push the value up. And a more valuable token? Well, that attracts even more creators to the network, which, you guessed it, makes the network even more attractive to brands. It just feeds itself. And here's the kicker, this isn't just some idea on a whiteboard. Bitcast is already generating real revenue.
Enough revenue, in fact, to cover the cost of the tokens it pays out to its network participants. That's a huge milestone. It basically means it's on a clear path to being a profitable, sustainable business, and it proves that these little subnets can actually work.
Okay, so that's one subnet out of 128. Pretty cool. But how does this one example tie back to that massive valuation gap we started with? Let's connect the dots. Remember this number? $850 billion. That's OpenAI's valuation. Just keep that number locked in your head for a second. Now, what if the entire BitTensor network managed to capture just 5% of OpenAI's value? Well, according to the math, that would put its market cap at over $40 billion. And let's just remind ourselves, this is where BitTensor is today. So the argument here is pretty stark. There's a potential for more than a 10x jump just by capturing a tiny, tiny slice of the leader's pie. This table just puts it all side by side. You have the current market cap versus that potential 40 billion plus valuation. And if you translate that down to the token price, well, this thesis suggests a future Tao price somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 to $4,000. That's a pretty big leap from where it is today, around 450. Now, what's really important to understand about this whole investment case is that it's not supposed to be based on pure hype. The argument is that it's a bet on actual tangible development, on the real activity that's happening across all 128 of these subnets. You know, the source makes the case that BitTensor is basically the complete opposite of a lot of other crypto projects out there. A lot of times you see these massive valuations with, well, not much actually being built. Here, the argument is that you have a ton of real, fundamental development happening under the hood, but the valuation just hasn't caught up to it yet. And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? The price has no choice but to catch up with all of those fundamentals happening under the hood. It's this core belief that, sooner or later, the market price has to reflect the actual value being created. And that really leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? What you should really take away from all of this isn't some specific price target. It's a whole new way of thinking about where AI is headed. Is the future going to be dominated by these massive, centralized, power-hungry models? Or does a decentralized, global, jurisdiction-agnostic approach like BitTensor's represent the next big leap forward? The answer to that question, well, that could be the trillion-dollar trade.